Carefully to those words is our guest, Niagale Bakayoko, President of the African Security Sector Network. Niagale, thank you for being with us. We've spoken many times, you and I, about the situation in the Sahel. And clearly, I've got an idea what you think, but clarify for us. What do you think of what President Macron has said? Do you feel it's time to change things?
I think it was time to change things because, in fact, the situation has been worsening increasingly over years, and we can see that have two military regimes in the G5 Sahel countries. You have always more civilian victims, as we had seen in Burkina Faso just a few days ago. And also, most importantly, we can see that all terrorist groups are expanding themselves. So there was a need to change probably the format of the operation. But I don't know if the choice has really been done because of the situation on the ground. I think it is more because of political reasons.
160 people killed in Burkina Faso, the slaughter you were talking about. Clearly, that is something that is extremely disturbing. There have been two military coups in Mali, arguably the largest kind of partner, I suppose, in the G5 Sahel, which I imagine was also playing on President Macron's mind.
Absolutely. Problem is that there has been two different positions which have been adopted by President Macron. On the one hand in Chad and on the other hand in Mali. In Chad, President Macron, but also the African Union, have tended to be very, not positive, but very slow in reacting, and there has been no real condemnation after the seizure of power by the son of President Déby with the military junta. In Mali, it's different because I think there were lots of disagreements between French and Malian authority for at least 18 months, I would say, since the post-summit. I think that the Malian authority, which were embodied by President Ibeka at the time, had decided to go into a dialogue with some jihadi groups. And I think that French have always been completely opposed to such an option. But the problem is that the new transitional authority have continued to try to negotiate with Yad Aghali and Amadou Koufa.
And this is a major problem for Macron.
I think it is a major point. And today, I think it has been the occasion which has been seized by the French president to finally make this disagreement public and to push the Malian authority to have a more clearer approach, I would say.
Barkhane has been unpopular in France because of the number of French soldiers that have lost their lives. It's over 40. I mean, clearly any loss of life is tragic, but on that scale, for France, it's a hard thing to actually to come to terms with, I suppose. It's not the same as the number of people who were killed on the ground. That's, again, another aspect of this whole story, which is extremely disturbing. Do you feel the solution, maybe you have an opinion, or maybe there's opinions you've counseled on this one, do you feel there is a solution to be gained from the G5 countries themselves coming forward rather than something brought by France or imposed by France?
What is very interesting is that during his speech, President Macron has made absolutely no mention to G5 John Ford itself, and just a few to Sahelian countries themselves. What he said is that he does want to reorganize the military intervention around two pillars. The first one being the European Special Forces Takuba force, and the other is the EUTM mission, which is a training mission. So it seems that President Macron is trying to push a kind of Europeanization of the approach, together with the United States, which have been a lot also mentioned in his speech. The problem is that I'm not sure that he will find the kind of European support and American support he is presently looking for, because the analysis of this situation in Mali is not shared by all the partners of France presently.
And as you were saying, going back, I think it was your first answer, you talked about the fact that terror groups are expanding. They're seeing the Sahel, the whole region, as a place of opportunity.
Definitely, and it is also, in my view, one of the major failures of the Barkhane operation, which was supposed to bring back the state to the area where the military operation had been able to push back the jihadi groups. Presently, we have a situation where there is nothing related to the state in such area, and where not only jihadi groups, but also self-defense militias or rebel groups have been able to install new kind of governance over territories which are completely escaping the authority of the Sahelian states. And this is one of the failure of the Barkhane operation, which is, according to President Macron, to be put under the responsibility of Sahelian states.
So Barkhane, previously it was called Servile, Operation Servile, set up to stop Islamist terrorism, which of course the Islamist groups seized northern Mali back in 2012, 2013. Today, the situation, would you describe it as a situation where the operation has worked to a degree, but the problem hasn't really been solved?
That's exactly the situation, because in fact, I think that the major problem experienced by Barkhane is that it had gains on the ground from an operational point of view, but they were not associated to a political approach. And in fact, fighting terrorism is meaningless. In fact, you are fighting political actors with a very clear political, social, and moral agenda. And I think this is definitely this that the international actors, and especially France, have completely failed to answer.
Indeed, and as you say, whilst that political thing is going on, there are people on the ground who really could do with some protection and some kind of structure to keep their lives safe from these terrorist actors. Niyigali Bakayoko, thank you very much indeed for joining us for that analysis. Niyigali Bakayoko, President of the African Security Sector Network. Pleasure to have you on France 24. Thank you very much indeed. We're watching for all developments, of course, on the situation, not just in Mali, but across the entire Sahel. Next, a court this Thursday sentenced